Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers about their lives in and out of the ring, as well as doing acts of service, charity work, community service work, lending a hand. We're all about positivity here on the podcast. And I've got a very special guest with me today. He is a former SICW ambassador and a Bruiser Brody Cup winner. I'm pleased to welcome Sean Vincent to the show. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, glad to be on. Thank you for having me. And yeah, good point pointing out the whole used to be ambassador of SICW. Let's face facts here. Good riddance. All right. You know, being the right-hand man of Herb Simmons for over, 8 years got me where? Nowhere. Kissing babies and shaking hands. Yeah, I'll let that be Brian Beretta's job from here on out.
Whoa, okay. All right. So, tell me about, your upbringing. Where did you grow up, Sean?
Well, I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. My mom met my dad. He was actually from St. Louis, Missouri. He was up there doing construction, labor. He had family that his mother married. It's kind of I'm trying to condense it a little bit for you to understand. My father had half Canadian's family through marriage. So he moved to Winnipeg, met my mother. They got married. The factories, when I was 1 year old, my father worked at, started closing down. So he took myself and my mother to St. Louis when I was about 1.5, 2. It's around 1983. So I was raised in St. Louis predominantly my whole life. But my hometown, my heritage, will always be Canada.
So, gotta love it.
Yeah. So born in Canada, raised in St. Louis. A lot of times I get people, smart fans. They're like, well, you don't sound Canadian. How come you don't sound like South Park? And I'm like, oh, gee, well, you don't sound American to me. How come you don't sound English? Yeah, exactly. So shut up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the Americans kind of have like that. They don't have like an interesting dialect. Whereas like if you go across the rest of the world, you see various, people will have an accent.
Yeah, an accent. Well, a stereotype. Like they're expecting me to say "a" a lot. Or,
yeah,
I'm sorry. They expect me to be very apologetic. Anything that the TV has taught them about Canadian heritage, really. But outside of that, I was born in Canada, raised in St. Louis. Have a fond childhood. I lived actually most of my childhood in Jennings, Missouri. Jennings Ferguson was my stomping grounds. Went through the whole Jennings school district till about freshman year. Then finished out my high school years at North County Tech. And now I reside in Hillsborough, Missouri.
Okay, all right.
When my mom and dad moved here, we mostly just had family members visiting us here in St. Louis. And I think I visited Canada once or twice when I was like 6. But mostly because my father had closed out businesses they had up there in Winnipeg. Just kind of to tie things up and officially be St. Louisans there forward.
Cool. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. What got you into professional wrestling?
Well, I was always a fan. My grandpa used to go to the Chase to watch, wrestling at the Chase. And I remember when I was 4 or 5, he would take me with him, and I really didn't know what was going on then. Just a bunch of guys in spandex, or I would call it swimming trunks, throwing each other around the ring. But I was just so hooked. And then we'd watch it on TV with him. So my grandpa is a thanks for that. Then just. I think most of my fondest memories was the Attitude Era. I grew up watching like 1996. I was big on Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart's feud. So I was always just fascinated by professional wrestling. Just the mystique of it, good versus evil, bad guy versus good guy, and the colorful characters. Like you look at Doink the Clown, for crying out loud. I mean, talk about an eye catcher for like little kids. And Vince McMahon had a very from a business aspect back then, he was all about whimsical characters like Duke the Dumpster Trophy or The Undertaker, talk about him, and just characters that really made children and make our parents buy the the toys.
Yeah.
So that really had me hooked.
Sean and Brett, I mean, talk about two real technical wrestlers that actually, could apply their craft and had, showmanship.
Sure, they were entertainers, great wrestlers, but as a child, what attracted me to really be hooked on Shawn Michaels, be a fan of Shawn Michaels, was kind of like he's the little guy, right? And he was always fighting the opposition, trying to climb that hill to be a champion. And when I was in high school, I was always small and picked on a lot and bullied a lot. And then when I turn on the TV, I'd see Shawn Michaels, not the biggest guy in the world, but fighting to be that champion, fighting. And I saw Shawn before, when he was a babyface, not when he was a heel. I'm sure I'd have a different opinion about him if I actually was watching him back when he super kicked Marty Jannetty and put him through the plate glass window. I'd probably have a different opinion altogether. Or when he was with Sherry, watching that now, I have such an appreciation for Shawn Michaels as a heel. But yeah, I have memories and photos of me, even going back to my 7th birthday, where I had a Hulk Hogan and Gene Flash Snuka action figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the thing about professional wrestling. We all start out as fans, and we remain fans.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of us go on to actually try it. And I'm
right.
glad that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's like the circle of life. You're a fan at a young age. You grow up being a fan all your life, and you pass it on to the next generation. Especially if you have a family of your own. And so that's
right.
It's amazing, to see the cycle just continues and continues. But yeah, like they had a WWE back in the 90s had a lot of, cartoon characters, I guess you could call it, like very animated, very like, over the top.
Booker. Come on, man.
Over the top. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and and the Attitude Era really brought that huge, like adult oriented, dark, edge to it, with the Taker and Kane storyline, Stone Cold, Vince McMahon, The Rock, it just was a hot time, in the business. It really was. Like so many people got into it. I can't believe how hot it was back then.
It is, and it still is to an extent. A lot of people try to crap on it today, like, oh, it's nothing like it was back in the day. But if you think about it, Vince McMahon is still surviving, despite what news sources would say that he's bankrupt or he's trying to sell his company and whatever. It still has had. Just last night, they were here in St. Louis. Did you go?
I did not go. I'm not from the area, but I but I did watch.
Oh, you did watch?
I'm from Nashville, so I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. So
right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, anyway, it was a sellout crowd. Vince McMahon is doing just fine as he was back then as he is today. I mean, granted, Triple H and Stephanie are running the show, but it's to each their own. Some people can't grow with the times. A Boston Booker wouldn't get over today as it would have, yesteryear.
No.
Or I don't know. Give me another one that probably wouldn't do so well today.
Well, I was watching an interview with The Undertaker a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how he was asked, I believe, like, would his character get over today as it would 30 years ago when he first came in the company? And I think he said probably not. It was just so different. It evolved over time, with the biker and, going back to the dead man and everything like that. But like he was like the only one, to play that character, I feel like, to the extent that he did. So, I mean, that's like an exception when you talk about some of the over the top characters that I feel like you could still make work today. In today's time.
What Undertaker was saying was like he had to evolve with the time as well.
Yes.
Back when you had Paul Bearer and the Undertaker, and they're in the mortuary, hammering on the casket, building a casket for a casket match. Could that get over today? Not really, because the fans are too smart. They're too like, oh, come on. You're not really working on a mortuary. You're not really the dead man. Though, a wise wrestler once said, if you believe in yourself, the fans will believe in you. So could he get it over? Yeah, it might be a little harder, but that's why you got to change with the times. That's why he went with, the biker gimmick for a while. And then when he came back, he was the biker / Undertaker gimmick. He combined the two. So it's always, you have to evolve with the times. And like I said before, back then in the 90s, today, still just as good in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the cool thing about being a fan, for life is that you have so many different wrestlers, that become your favorite. And over
Right.
time, I guess it's safe to say Shawn Michaels was one of yours.
Absolutely. I was a huge Shawn Michaels fan.
You began training to
Yeah.
be a professional wrestler. When did you start training? When did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, I always knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how to. It was 1998. I was 16 years old, and I was coming home from my first job. I was a Hardee's burger flipper.
Mm.
And I stopped by at a gas station. It was right across the road. And in that gas station was a poster for Midwest Renegade Wrestling. It was a company out of St. Louis, out of the Midwest, and it was for one of their shows. Well, at the bottom of that poster is, "Do you want to be a wrestler?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I wrote down the number, called it, and it was a gym located off of Old St. Charles Rock Road in St. Louis. A dusty old garage. It used to be a mechanic shop, and it closed down, so they rented out the space. It was a hot August of 1998, and I remember it vividly. I show up, and I'm there early. I'm there an hour early. Training was from 6 to 9. I got there at 5. I want to make an impression. No one's there, but the garage door is cracked. And I kind of slid underneath the door. I looked, and there it was, the first ring I'd ever taken my bumps in. And it was so awe-inspiring. Now, granted, looking back on it, it was a tiny 16 by 16 ring, and this thing was junk. Now I know what I know. You know what I mean? But I slid in there, and I got up on the ring, and as awkward as any person could be ever stepping in a wrestling ring. And it was just the smell of the ring, the touching of the ropes, just getting in there. I knew I was gonna commit to this. So eventually, my first trainer did show up at 6. His name was Ty Dalton. You can Google him, Ty Dalton, Midwest wrestler, and he'll pop up. Probably find a picture of him with a cowboy hat on, just a jacked, bald-headed dude. And he was good. He was good to me. You hear stories of trainers beating the shit, taking people's money and just beating the shit out of them because they want to see if you can take it, or if they want to just take your money and get rid of you. Ty wasn't like that. Ty took care of me, showed me my bumps, and over a course of 2 years, I trained with many different local Midwest wrestlers, notably Mike Sharona, Makazi, Pete Madden, and Killer Q Smith. All names you can Google, and actually, you can go on YouTube and look up Gateway or GCW Tribute. And we'll get to what GCW is in a second. But you can find all those names on there, their matches from way back when. So I started training. And for those 2 years, I refereed, which was a great experience. I always recommend anybody who's new and green to the business, if you're training, the best exposure you can get until you're ready for your first match is being a referee. Because you're out there in front of the fans, you're in the middle of the match, you're hearing, you're seeing how they're performing. It's great exposure, and it gets you used to the crowd too. So that's how my journey began.
It's just very fascinating, the old broken down training schools with the ring, the atmosphere. You just take it all in and just go for it. And I like what you said too about, there's so many jobs to have in the wrestling business. It's not just about the athletes that go and compete. It's about, your managers, your, valets, your referees, your announcers. I mean, I feel like, that's probably the best way to really learn the business is to do different things before you actually start. If you're serious about wanting to be in the business, to be a wrestler, it's kind of like moving up the ladder.
Absolutely. You know what? I have we'll talk about this later too, but I have a wrestling school that I started with Cowboy Bob Orton called the Ace Wrestling Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I get people, we have so many students come through there monthly that I have to explain to some of them the real talk, reality talk, that you are not destined to be a professional wrestler, but that doesn't mean you're not destined to be in professional wrestling. You can be a great referee. You can be a great manager. You can be a great promoter, booker. There's other things you can do. in professional wrestling to make a name for yourself than actually being in the ring and taking bumps.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would give my right hand for a great referee. A referee can make or break a match just like the two wrestlers in the ring. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't get how important a good referee is.
No, they don't. No. He's like, he or she, I should say, is like the glue that holds, the match together along with the two competitors, whether it's a male match or a female match, men's match or a women's match.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're not just a referee and they're counting three or enforcing rules, your reactions, your selling is just as important.
Mm-hmm.
I love referees who a wrestler takes a huge slam, the referee's like, oh, they react to it. I love referees that do that. Or they get down and they go 1, 2, they kick out and they're like, oh, 2, I can't believe that was 2. And they actually show that raw emotion because that's adding to the story and that's helping sell what's happening in the ring.
Right.
So, again, you don't have to be a wrestler to make a name for yourself. Earl Hebner, hello. That's a household. Everybody knows Earl.
Mm-hmm. Montreal screw job.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, that stank will always be on his name.
Yeah.
But at the same time, before the Montreal screw job, he was just Earl. He was just one of the head veteran referees that everybody knew.
Mm-hmm. That's a name I definitely feel like should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. As we kind of enter in WrestleMania season, Earl is definitely up there with all the legendary referees, legends in general. I feel like he's one that should go in at some point.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I come to think of it, in the history of the Hall of Fame, has there ever been a referee inducted?
I don't think so. Not one that Teddy Long. Of course, Teddy Long went on to be the...
That doesn't count. All right.
General
Teddy Long was a referee, but that's not what he was known for. He was more known for his managerial roles, managing tag, being a GM.
Right, of course.
Yeah, nobody would... If you said, oh, Teddy Long was a referee, somebody would have to go, oh, yeah, he was, because you don't remember him.
Right. Yeah, that's true. When I'd go back and watch like some of the old Attitude Era matches and I see him referee, I'm like, oh, there's Teddy Long.
Exactly. Right somewhere.
Yeah.
So my first wrestling match was in 2000 in DeSoto, Missouri, and it happened so quickly. It was a day show, actually a day and night show. It was a day shows, two companies that came together. MRW became Gateway Championship Wrestling. Gateway Championship Wrestling paired up with another company, Midwest Powerhouse Wrestling, to have an all-day event show. During the day, inside the gymnasium was MPW and GCW, and then at nights, we had another show outside on a ball diamond. It was an amazing event. It was called WrestleFest. And I remember sitting on the bleachers outside, just kind of taking it all in. It was a circus, too. They had, like, a dunking booth and games and stuff for kids. It was fun.
Yeah.
And the promoter walked up to me and goes, hey, Chris, you have your workout gear with you? And I'm like, yeah. Why? You're having a match today. What? Oh, my God. He goes, yeah, go get your gear. So I go up to the locker room. I got it's just literally knee pads, wrestling shoes, and the stuff I work out in at the training dojo. So nothing special. And I'm wrestling a guy named Nicky Strychnine. Now, again, if you don't know who Nicky Strychnine is, he's a he's retired now. Phenomenal talent, great on the microphone, great talker. And if you go on GCW YouTube or GCW Tribute on YouTube, look up Nicky Strychnine, he will blow you away. Now, he's very rated R with his promos, more shock and awe with his promos. But if you're okay with that, you'll love him. Anyway, I go up to him excited. We're going to have like a 5 to 8 minute match. And I'm laughing because it's so stupid, a rookie mistake. I say to Nicky, hey, who's going over? And he looks at me sideways and he's like, what? And he gets up laughing his ass off. He goes, hey, guys, Vincent wants to know who's going over in his first match. And they're all fucking laughing their asses off. I'm embarrassed. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, well, probably should have asked that question. Obviously, it wasn't me. So I get my gear on and I'm looking in the mirror. And I'm like, this is not enough. So I go and I brought a ball cap and some sunglasses and some tape. And I wish I could find a picture of me in this silly outfit. It looks like somebody made a creative player on WWE with minimal gear.
Yeah.
I look like a reject from the Backstreet Boys, is basically, if you can picture that. So I go out to the ring, and we have a great match. Nikki carried me through the whole match. He went over, and it was awesome. The fans didn't know how to take me because I didn't know how to work the audience at that point. No one does when you're green. No one.
Right.
Had a great match, and then we're off to the races. Okay, what do we do with Vincent? He's not exactly ready for a full-time booking as a worker, but we need to start developing some kind of character. So the booker comes up with an idea. You remember, what was that referee in WCW who was always screwing people out of matches?
Was it Charles Robinson?
No, was it Nick something?
Nick Patrick.
Nick Patrick.
So
this is back when Nick Patrick was really big. He was like the NWO henchman referee.
Yeah.
Well, we had a group called the Syndicate in GCW, and it was not like the NWO, but it was kind of a little gang. And they hired Vincent to be their referee. And I would cheat babyfaces out of their matches. It got great heat. The audience hated me. They dug me with the nickname Doogie Howser or Doogie. I looked nothing. What? I looked nothing like Neil Patrick Harris. It made no sense. But I played it with them, and I got aggravated every time they said Doogie sucks, and it just stuck. Got great heat, and that evolved to me becoming the head official, which then I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I paid homage to Shawn Michaels by calling myself the head sexy official, which then led to me having matches with wrestlers I screwed, and fans would pay money to see those wrestlers beat the tar out of Sean Vincent. It was good money. Like, fans would come all over. Like, it didn't matter if you're a heel or a babyface. If you were beating up Sean Vincent, they loved you. That's how much heat I got as a heel. And I would do this thing where I would strip my shirt off mid-match to tease the ladies. Audience, they would yell, "Put your shirt on," clap, clap, clap. And then I'd get chopped to oblivion. You know, people don't like being chopped. After all the years, I really can't feel it anymore. So,
oh yeah, your chest hurts like hell. I mean, it's crazy.
It does, but after like 20-something years being chopped, it doesn't bother me at all.
Why not?
So why not? Oh, you get used to it. It's like having, all right, a steel construction worker would have calluses on their hands, right? From all the all the work, right? It's kind of like your chest. Your chest is callous to it. So you getting chopped doesn't really bother you. But if I chopped you on your chest, who's not used to getting chopped, you would probably buckle to the floor and hold your chest.
Oh yeah, it would sting. It would sting for sure.
Absolutely. Which is kind of funny. I remember the first time I learned how to chop. Ty Dalton, one day in training, was like, "Oh, you want to learn how to chop? Get in the corner here. I'll lay in the corner." He got in the corner, put his arms on the ropes. "All right, kid." And he taught me how to do it. He goes, "All right, oh, you're doing good. All right, keep going." And I'm up to like 15 chops on this guy, right? And he goes, "Oh, by the way, with every one chop, I get 2." And I stopped. I was like, oh crap. So then he puts me in the corner. He lights me up, and he got every chop. Every bit of it. He got it back. So there's a little trick for any trainee out there who's watching this video right now. If your trainer tells you to work on your chops on his chest, know that there's that old school trick where he's gonna get you back twofold.
One wrestler I feel like who does like the hardest chops that I've ever seen is Big Show.
God, yeah. Matter of fact, there's a guy I wrestle with in SICW who's comparable to the Big Show, and that's the Big Texan. When it comes to chops, this guy will make your heart feel like it skipped a beat. Like he puts, you hit with a chop, and you'll feel your heart hit your spine and then bounce back in place. That's how hard he hits.
Right.
But anyway, so I did the referee gimmick for a while, where I was head sexy official, and then just like the Undertaker, like 5 years went by, and it was time to evolve the character. It was time to spend some money. Whenever I train the students at Ace Academy about gimmicks and selling yourself. You have to invest in yourself to sell yourself. So you have to go out there and you have to get the tights made, look unique, be different. Don't just wear blue jean pants and a t-shirt from Target. You actually have to invest in your gear.
Yeah.
So I got some tights made where it had a sexy going down one leg, and then a heart and a dagger with a serpent on the left. Again, who do you think I'm homaging
You're paying to Sean and Brett.
Sean and Brett. So I went on and I said to myself, what would be so obnoxious? Like, how can I be more obnoxious? Do you remember seeing a movie in the early 2000s called Malibu Most Wanted?
I've heard of it.
Okay, Malibu Most Wanted. There's a character named B-Rad in this movie. He's a very rich, well-off, white-collar teenager who wants to be a rapper, and he wears a do-rag, and he is the most stereotypish, like cringy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
oh my,
like very like yeah, like because the early 2000s I know had a bunch of the hip hop kind of stuff.
yeah, like Eminem wannabes.
Yeah, Eminem.
So I said to myself, I'm gonna do that. So I came out to the ring with a do-rag on, chains. I called it my bling, and a FUBU shirt. A lot of people don't remember FUBU, and my tights. And it was so. I came out to Eminem, Shady's Back, and the fans ate it up. They're like, "Oh my god, this guy! You're not a rapper. You're not sexy," and like the chants and stuff. It was so good. And then I said to myself, you know who got really great heat that doesn't get a whole lot of publicity? Andy Kaufman. You remember Andy Kaufman?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he was just announced as we're recording this, it was just recently announced that he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Oh my
Yes.
god, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, well, let's talk about Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman used to do a thing where he's like, women shouldn't be in professional wrestling. The only thing women are good for making babies and making sandwiches, So I took that and I ran with it because I hadn't been done in years. It had the stint with Jerry Lawler, and I went ham. I went out there and I would talk smack on every woman wrestler in GCW, be it Mischief, Daisy Hayes, and Rebecca Reyes. Again, go on GCW Tribute on YouTube and you can look these women up. They're fantastic. And I would go out there and I'd talk my smack, and they would beat the hell out of me. Basically, they would, yeah. Unlike Andy Kaufman, where Andy Kaufman would beat the hell out of the women, forcing Jerry Lawler to, hey buddy, you want to wrestle a real wrestler? I was the opposite. I was the absolute opposite. And the only way I would actually win against these girls who were out wrestling me is I would cheat, which would piss off the audience.
Oh, yeah.
And we did that for over 2 years. It was fantastic. And then the booker goes, how can we turn Vincent, this monster heel, face? Well, they didn't want to swerve the audience. So they had me tag with a woman. And it worked. It worked. Her name was Rebecca Reyes, who won the tag titles of GCW twice. And it was over. It was fantastic. I owe Rebecca Reyes the credit for that because no one liked Vincent, period. He was just a snobbish, wannabe rapper, annoying prick, and hated women, misogynist. And now, because of her and me going out there saving her from another heel, and how we told the story was so perfect that we were actually a tag team for another 3 years after that.
It's a good ending, to that whole storyline because intergender wrestling is just so. I feel like it's hard to do. I mean, do you feel like it's something that should be a little more normalized, or is it? Do you feel like it's comfortable? What's your take on the whole thing?
So my take is probably not going to be very liked. Knowing what I know now, I wish I knew back then, that kind of scenario. Let's talk about anatomy and physicalness. When it comes down to it, what are we trying to sell to the audience? We're trying to sell realism, right? So you put a guy in a ring with a woman, and he outweighs her, he mustard. Sure, she can probably Rey Mysterio his ass and outmaneuver him, and you can tell that story a little bit. You can tell the story a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that guy is going to murder that girl, and it's not going to look good. It's going to look horrible.
No.
Because what empathy are you getting from the audience? Nothing. You're getting, oh, this guy just beat the hell out of this girl. Who are we supposed to cheer here? This is horrible.
Yeah, I know.
So when it comes down to intergender matches for me today, I don't really agree with them. I'm happy that WWE moved away from that. Because if you think about it in the realm of reality, it makes absolutely no sense.
No. Like China, I feel like was a woman who could do that. Like she was like an exception.
She wasn't, but she was huge.
Yeah.
There was one in TNA. There's this one big 6-foot blonde buff must. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to. I think I know who you might be referring to.
She was jacked. Like she was just like China. Now that woman, I could see. Like, okay, obviously she can hold her own.
Yeah.
You know, you probably. But how long can you milk that? Like, how long?
Right.
Can that
yeah. You know? Like, yeah. That can only work so long.
Exactly. So why even go down that well? Why even buy it? It just doesn't make sense. So again, now I'm telling you from experience, I wrestled the likes of Mischief, Daisy Hayes Records. I even had a one-off match with Mickey Knuckles. Ooh. And yeah, and again, these women, God bless them, pound for pound, tough as nails. They are amazing women. I think Mickey Knuckles is the only one still wrestling today out of the names I just mentioned. All of them are all retired, dude, because they want to be moms and, you know, personal life.
Yeah,
I think, of course. So, you know, I had great matches with all those women I just mentioned. But if I had to go back and do it again today, I wouldn't, because it just from a storybook concept, it just doesn't make sense.
Sure. I agree with that. You know, as far as like the guys go, who are like some of your favorite opponents to work with?
As of today, I'll speak current. Well, in the past, Pete Madden was amazing because he was such a giving guy. You know, in this business, we learned that it takes two to put on a match, two to tango.
Yeah,
you know, it's not just person; it's two of us put on a good story. But today, I gotta say, I'm having a great time with some of my students that have actually just recently graduated from an Ace Academy, which is Brandon Beretta. He's a new up and comer. Keep an eye out for this kid. He's already made impressions with bookers with NXT and so Brandon Beretta is going to be an up and coming star, and his tag partner Joey Benetti. Which, by the way, if I can plug a show coming up, April the 8th at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds in Belleville, Illinois, SICW is back. All the stars, including the two names I just mentioned, will be there in action, as well as a main event tag team match, Attila Khan and Sheik Prater versus the Big Texan and Gary Jackson. This is a hell of a tag team match. The names alone, if you go on YouTube and look them up, these are very big men, and the winner of this tag match will get to choose a stipulation for the match against Big Texan and Attila Khan, who Attila Khan, if I didn't mention, is the heavyweight champion, on May 13th at the Aviator Hotel for our huge Fan Fest extravaganza, where, if you haven't heard about this, over 40 wrestling legends will be there. I'll send you a copy of the poster after this meeting.
Yeah, definitely. Any help SICW can be with the podcast would be appreciated, because I've interviewed several names so far from the promotion. So I'm happy to have you as one of the people here on the list. So yeah, so you've been a trainer now with the Ace Academy. You've been doing that a while. When did you start? I guess I should say, when did you start working with SICW? I guess we'll start there.
Sure. SICW, I started working with them after I ended my tenure with International Championship Wrestling. For the sake of time, we'll just skip that and go right to SICW. Around 2010, I met Herb Simmons and their group through Keith Smith. Again, a name that I mentioned before, one of my earlier trainers. Introduced me to Herb Simmons, and from 2010 to the current date today, I've been with Herb Simmons and his company. It's been a hell of a ride. It's been amazing. Herb Simmons himself, a promoter of over 50 years, a man who has done business with Sam Munchnick, friends with Larry Madison, friends with Bruiser Brody, Like, this guy has a resume that any promoter would kill to have. And I have been nothing but loyal to SICW for many, many years. So, you talked about recently I was their ambassador, and that was all fine and dandy. Again, kissing babies and shaking hands and doing things for Shriners Hospital and advertising SICW this and SICW that. And sure, it got me some really cool bookings. I wrestled Cowboy Bob Orton, Dory Funk Jr., Wes Briscoe, the son of Jerry Briscoe. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Herb, for the rub. Thank you very much. But where's the belt around my waist? Okay. And let me tell you something right now. April 8th, I mentioned at Bell Color Fairgrounds. Where's that belt? Right now, it's currently around the waist of Bobby D, the Central States heavyweight champion. And I signed a little contract recently on the SICW TV to have a match with Bobby D for the Central States heavyweight title April 8th, this coming Saturday night. Yeah, baby. Oh, not this, I'm sorry. April 8th is a little ways off. But on my map is Bobby D. I will have a title. And guess what? I'm not the ambassador. Ooh, I stopped being the ambassador and also I have a heavyweight title shot. Well, coincidence? I think not.
I guess no, it's okay. It's all good. I guess it's safe to say you're a heel at heart.
I've always been, will be. Anybody who's ever followed my career can honestly say that all my best work was done as a heel. And by the way, again, GCW tribute on YouTube. Go there. You'll see the FUBU shirt. You'll see the Head Sexy official. Great times, great memories. And I'm not done yet. I'm going to go to the wheels fall off, man. And it's not for a few more years.
Oh, yeah. So we'll talk about the Ace Academy. That was something I think Bob Orton started up?
Yeah, look, you got kind of right. Back in 2018, I called Bob Orton, him and I are friends, and I said, "Hey, Bob, I'd like to start a wrestling school, and what do you think about starting one with me?" And then, in my worst Bob Orton impersonation, "Oh, well, Vincent, I'm not really doing anything else outside of these bookings. I'm just sitting on my couch watching Randy and doing my flower bed. What were you thinking?" And then we went into the discussion. I told him that Herb Simmons was allowing me to use a building that he owns. Fun fact, Herb Simmons is the mayor of East Carondelet. So he has the favors here and there to rent out buildings. So I got a building, and then a friend of his, Andy, and also a friend of mine, who owns the wrestling ring that Herb Simmons uses, is allowing me to use his ring for the school. So there we are. We have Bob Orton, the name of the school, the Ace Wrestling Academy, the man, Mr. WrestleMania 1, the Hall of Famer, is going to start a school with me, and off to the races we go. It's been an awesome journey. We've had over 60 students come through the Ace Academy since then. And 60 is kind of a modest number because, of course, we had to take a year off in 2020 because of the pandemic, which really sucked because we were on such a roll. Students from all over the Midwest and further than that were coming twice a week to the Ace Academy, which, again, I'll drop you the information for the school too, in case anybody's watching this podcast wants to join the Ace Academy. We are a school that is open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Bob is there. He's very heavily involved. He loves his students. He loves creating the future of professional wrestling. And the thing is about our school, Bob has a very high standard. Like, he doesn't let anyone say they're a graduate from his school. Like, you have to earn it. And we've only had, let me count again, four graduates since the school opened. Wow. So that goes to tell you that out of like 60 students, only 4 graduates. We don't just say to anybody, "Oh yeah, you could be a pro wrestler." Hell no, man. You're gonna have the name. You're gonna get a plaque that has Bob Orton's name on it, his school, saying that you graduated. If you're gonna get that plaque and you're gonna be able to go out in that world and tell people that you were trained by Bob and you graduated his school, you better goddamn believe that you're gonna be a quality product. You're gonna be a quality wrestler that people know what they're getting. I hate it when people say, they're trained by such and such, or they did a seminar with such and such. That's fine. Seminars are great. I encourage the Ace Academy students to go to as many seminars as humanly possible. Drive, hit the road. Oh, Steve Carino's having a seminar in Tennessee. You better get your ass to that seminar. Yes, learn from the best and then bring it back to the school. Let's talk about it. Matter of fact, just recently, that's where Brandon Beretta and Joey Vanetti got seen by NXT bookers.
Okay.
Was a seminar in Tennessee. I forget the names of the bookers that were there, but how are you gonna get exposed? By promoting yourself. And no one put a little light on the stomach. Is that kind of ominous? I feel like it's ominous.
It's all right. It's different.
Different? Okay, cool. At least you get my good side. If you're going to promote yourself, no one's going to promote you harder than you. You think the promoter who's booking you on their card is worried about you? No, they're worried about their card. They're worried about their show. Yeah, they're booking you on their show, that's better, to enhance their show, to draw and put asses in seats. But at the end of the day, you must promote yourself. You have to have your own social media, a way of going out there and reaching the audience, reaching the fans.
Sure. Do you feel that the transition from wrestler to coach has been easy? Do you feel it's a little harder at times?
Oh, there's a learning curve. Absolutely. When I first started Ace Academy with Bob, there's a business meeting. I recorded the meeting because we didn't have any contracts. We didn't have anything rolled on paper, so I recorded it. And in the meeting, you can hear the conversation between me and Bob where it's like, well, I don't know how you want to handle this. I don't know, Bob, how you want to handle this. Because even Bob goes, well, I never ran a school before. I'm like, Bob, near have I. Like, this is going to be a learning experience for both of us. And now we're seasoned. It's 2023. We know what we're doing, and the talent that we're producing is amazing. I'm so proud of Brandon Beretta and Joey Vanetti and my new tag partner, Glenn Williams, another young man who is going to make a splash on the indie scene. Big Nasty is what he calls himself, and Big Nasty it is. He's got a great charisma, great personality, this kid. And the fact that he and I are tagging together, I'm excited because, again, moving with the times, you always have to change. And, having him, he's kind of a revigoration for me, that young new talent. So with that said, the school's been going great. We actually, when I get done this podcast, I got some phone calls to make. There's I always have students emailing me, calling me, hey, I want to join the school. And every day I have to make a different phone call, but it's been great, man. Yeah. Going from wrestler to, and I'm still a wrestler, but to a teacher, I am happy to know that the future of Midwest wrestling will be just that much more better because of the students that the Ace Academy is producing.
Oh, no doubt about it. You also have done some charity work outside of the business, outside of wrestling. Tell me about some of the organizations that you've worked with.
Sure. Shriners, big one for SICW. Back when I was the ambassador, and I have no ill will about being an ambassador at all. It's just, anyway, I've already covered that. So Shriners is an amazing foundation for kids, with diseases and raising money for scientists to find cures for cancer and illnesses, and it's just great. So we've done charity events where I've gone to Shriners Hospital in St. Louis, and I had an Elvis impersonator, a guy playing the guitar, and we went there and we just entertained these kids for a couple hours to take them out of that environment that they're in, that funk that they're in, and just put a smile on their face. And it was so great, man. Nothing was cooler than that. And then we also did other things with Shriners that involved a kind of a fair. It was where it was a compilation of different companies coming in to raise money for Shriners, and SICW had a part in that. And it wasn't just me that day. Gary Jackson was there, Curtis Wild was there, other SICW stars were there, and the smiles, and I'll send you a bunch of
Yeah,
photos.
yeah. Feel free.
Yeah. It was so cool giving back to the community, and now I don't do that too much anymore because again, I'm not the ambassador anymore. I'm not. That's Brian Beretta's job now. To kiss those babies and
Yeah,
shake those.
sure.
But the memories though were phenomenal. I little side trip here. I'm actually a registered nurse. That's my shoe
Ah,
job. Yes. I've been a registered nurse since 2014, and being in the medical field, helping people, taking care of people, has always been my passion. I've always enjoyed medicine, the human body, learning about it. People ask me all the time, "Why didn't you go to school to be a doctor?" And I'm like, because I was being a wrestler. When I was pursuing wrestling, I was a CNA, a certified nurse's assistant. So I graduated high school in 2001 as a CNA, and I worked in nursing homes, hospitals, home health, hospice. I did it all. And in my mind, back of my head, I always wanted to go on and become a registered nurse. I just wasn't enjoying being a pro wrestler.
mm-hmm.
And when it came time to, as they say, shit or get off the pot, um, I stepped away from pro wrestling for 2 years. Not really. I still was involved. Didn't really fully step away, but I went back to college full time and got my RN degree from Florida State Community College. And best decision I've ever made because I wouldn't be where I am now had I not done that. A
Mm-hmm.
CNA, you think RNs are underpaid. Oh, CNAs are even worse. And I knew if I wanted to make that next step in life, it wasn't professional wrestling that was going to get me there. I had to go back to college and get a degree, which, by the way, kids that are watching this podcast right now, big advice I give students is this. If you want to make it in professional wrestling, one, have an education, finish high school, get a job trade, carpenter, plumber, whatever. You don't have to go to college. Just get a trade. So that way you can have a job to fall back on. So that way you can be independent. And tip number 2, stay single. Don't get married. Don't do that. Because the second you hook yourself up with a woman and you're in a relationship, now you got to think about her and anniversaries and birthdays and holidays. And guess what professional wrestlers don't get to do? All that. Mm-hmm. We don't get to do birthdays and anniversaries. And matter of fact, May 13th is our big fan fest for SICW. And that's my wedding anniversary. So I had to do a little compromising with the wife. I was like, honey, I gotta be at this booking. I'm sorry. But see, now if I wasn't married, see how much easier it is? You have your own schedule. That's why is John Cena married?
I think he's in a relationship.
I was hooked on Divas. Total Diva.
Yeah.
Man, that show had me hooked. And I got John Cena. I got him when he was like, telling Brie, I don't want to have kids. I hope you're okay with not having kids. Because he can't commit. His schedule won't let him. So if you want to make it in professional wrestling, one, have a career, finish high school, have an education, and two, stay single.
I get what you're saying about that, because it seems like professional wrestling, it's a hard life to live. And so you have choices that you have to make in life. But, kudos to you for being able to have, a wife and being able to live, your life and doing all these things. But going back to, being a nurse and stuff, I mean, over the, last few years with COVID, I mean, that had to have been hard, going and seeing those sick patients and.
Yeah, it absolutely was. For every healthcare worker, every first responder, cop, firefighter, EMT, we didn't get a break. Like, it was very hard. And I tell people the reality is, like, was it that bad? It was that bad. And, people are like, oh, well, COVID-19 for me was just a bad cold. Okay, but how about the 8-year-old with COPD? How about the 6-year-old with asthma, severe asthma? Those are, by the way, and I don't mean to take this down a dark road.
No.
Those are ages that I put in body bags. So, when somebody was telling me, oh, I don't believe in the vaccine and I don't believe it's a hoax, it's this and that, I wouldn't get mad. I tried not to get mad, but it was like, you know what? If you were actually in those rooms and seeing those people struggling to breathe and holding on to life. And then on top of that, they were by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't allowed to have any visitors. They were dying by themselves. And I tried to stay away from social media for a whole year because it just made my stomach turn. Because unless you were actually on the front line seeing this play out in front of you while you're trying to save them, but hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, of course. I mean, we live in a free country, so people have the right to believe what they want. And, but, kudos to you for, going above and beyond the call of duty. And,
thank you very much. But it was one of those things where, I chose to be a registered nurse, not because of the accolade or the initials behind my name. I did because I love human beings. I love humanity, and I love taking care of people. When I go to work with a smile on my face, and I'm such a goofball in real life. Like, I make my patients laugh. Dad jokes are my favorite of them all. Like, how do you make a tissue dance?
How?
Put a little boogie in it. No, I know. Silly, right?
Yeah.
If you've never seen the movie Patch Adams,
yeah.
You have. Oh, phenomenal movie.
It's great.
Phenomenal. So yeah, man, that's where I am right now. I'm a registered nurse / professional wrestler, which the doctors at my job get a kick out of.
Yeah.
They watch SICW TV every Sunday night, by the way, 8 p.m. on YouTube. They watch it and they'll comment on it. Next day I'm at work. Oh, so Mr. Vincent, and they know my real name, they know my shoot name. And I'm like, all right, what'd you see? Oh, we saw you beat somebody up with a Canadian flag. I'm like, yeah, well, did I win? All right then. It's not about how you get the win. It's about if you got the win.
Yeah. Gotta win at all costs.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotta do what you can. That's right. Rules are for fools. Why do you feel so passionate about helping others?
Again, it spawns back to my whole life. My mom was an LPN. I got to see her, come home from work with a stethoscope around her neck and tell me stories, or rather hearing stories she told my father. And then, I was in Boy Scouts, did things to help the community. Was always a community person. And I think that's why Larry Matisick and Herb Simmons together asked me to be their ambassador, because they saw that I was very good at speaking to the public and just dealing with wrestling fans in general. I can talk to anybody. You could be a stranger sitting on a bus stop bench. I'll sit next to you and be like, so how about this weather? Just to start a conversation.
Yeah, shooting the breeze. Make small talk. Yeah.
Small talk. I could do that with anyone. And I've never been an introvert. I've always been extrovert. And, that's the thing about professional wrestling. You'd be shocked to find how many introverts there are in professional wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. They're on TV. They're in the ring. They're doing their thing. And then in the locker room, they're literally a human seashell. Like, they're in their own little.
Yeah.
Talk to anyone. And not because they're antisocial, but because they don't know how to be social. I'll be in the locker room trying to talk to those introverts.
Yeah.
Like, I'll swing right next to them. Hey, how's it going? What's going on in your world? And they'll just be like this awkward, oh, nothing, the drive here was long. I like her.
Yeah, it's like you kind of have to get them to come out of their shell and be, a human, not a robot just sitting around, walking on eggshells.
Here's the thing that I want to tell you, about times of change and stuff. When I was coming up in this business, we didn't have smartphones. We had like flip phones and shit. We had to talk to each other.
Yes.
We played ribs on each other. We had a great time.
Yeah.
You go in a locker room today and you sit there in your chair and you look around, everybody's in their phone. No one. The only time you hear anybody talk to anybody is if they're talking about their matches. And I'll be sitting there, the old school bastard, just like, So, anybody going to talk?
Yeah.
Or I'm the one, if I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here, I'm the guy these days pulling ribs on people. I'll tell you about one that was done to me that was kind of cruel but funny.
Yeah.
We were on a road trip for GCW, and Ben Oliver, the owner, got us all hotel rooms. Oh, no, that's not right. He bought 2 hotel rooms that he stuffed his locker room in. So we all had to, find a place to lay down and sleep. Still nice, though. It was a 2-hour trip from St. Louis to his venue, so he got us 2 hotel rooms. I made the mistake of leaving my wrestling bag in one room, and I slept in another room. I woke the next morning, and I found my wrestling bag had been gone through. And that one of my ankle bracelets, ankle braces, not bracelets, I wasn't on house arrest. Ankle brace was out of my bag in the bathtub, and it was soaking wet. And I'm like, oh, ha, they got my ankle brace wet, ha. Threw it back, zipped it up, drove 2 hours home. I get home, I unzip my bag, and an overwhelming waft of human urine came like reeking through my bag. I'm like, what the hell? Paul, my friend Paul, who was the cameraman at GCW. I'm like, Paul, why is my gear smell like piss? Okay, Vincent, don't be mad. But Dan, his name is Dan Walsh. You can find him on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Dan was really drunk last night, and he said to everybody, hey, is that Vincent's bag? And oh, cool. He went to the bag, he took your ankle brace out and threw it in the bathtub and pissed on it. And I was like, why? So next time I saw Dan, Dan, I love Dan. I couldn't be mad at him. I was like, bro, couldn't find the toilet? He goes, man, I thought the bathtub was the toilet. I don't know. He had like some stupid excuse. Like, and I never got him back. That was so many years ago. That was like 16 years ago. And I still talk to him today. So Dan, if you see his podcast, know that I haven't forgot and I still owe you. I'm going to show up to your house and piss on your recliner or something. I don't know.
20 years later.
20 years later. I'm going to show up to his house, drink a water.
That's what you call long-term booking.
Exactly. When a worker watches this, I want them to know, if you're young and you're new to the biz, do yourself a favor, put your phone down and talk to the veterans in the locker room. You can learn so much, and yet you're pissing away time. Like in the SICW locker room, you have people like Attila Khan, Gary Jackson, Flash Flanagan, Superstar Steve Fender. Those names alone have traveled all over and have been booked on WCW, WWF. Like they can tell you how to succeed, in this business. But here you are, wherever this is.
Yeah.
Your smartphone is not important. Put in your fucking bag and talk to people.
Yeah.
Network is what they call it.
Yeah.
Networking is my phone. On a day that you're not booked at the show, put it down.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Sean, this has been wonderful. I just want to say thank you for coming on. Where can people find more about you and SICW on social media?
Absolutely. You want to go on to YouTube and look up SICW on YouTube. Every Sunday night, 8 p.m., we have a fresh TV episode for you. Matter of fact, this past Sunday night, you would have saw the opening match was me versus that high-flying Boomerang. Whoa, he didn't fly that high that day because I got the W. Not spoiling it for you, but if you want to see a little geek his neck broke by the Canadian, watch that episode. So every Sunday night, 8 p.m. on YouTube. Then on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, look me up, Sean Vincent. You can find me. It's that easy. You can't miss this face. This face right here draws attention from the ladies and admiration from the guys. So feel free to look me up on all those social medias. And then, of course, SICW's got a fan page on Facebook. Join it. Because every now and then I pop in there and I smack your fans around a bit with some common sense.
And also the Ace Academy, too.
Oh, my God. Ace Academy. Wow, dude, you're good. I like you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
If you want to be a professional wrestler, if you want to have admirations of getting into professional wrestling, be it a referee, a manager, a booker, a promoter, Ace Academy is where it's at. You have the legend, the Hall of Famer, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., and his staff of well-trained teachers there to help guide you on your way to wrestling stardom. Hit me up on Facebook right now, or you can actually go to the Ace Academy Wrestling page on Facebook and try to join today.
There you have it. Thanks again,
This
Sean.
is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.